If we can go to the next one. All right, this is a miracle picture. If you notice, there are 12 grandchildren and no one's on the ground, no one's facing backwards, they're all facing forward. That is an absolute miracle. I just want you to know that. So, if you want to tell you something about me, I am a 6th generation that I can account for Texan. I think we go back further than that. I just can't trace it back any further. I'm a 3rd generation Aggie, and I'm proud of it. Woo! You know, that's a pretty good deal. The other thing is, I have lived in this district for over 60 years. I grew up here, went through the high school, Southwest High School, almost one of the first years it was open. My kids went through Pascal and that pyramid, all in public school. And now these precious grandchildren you see back there, 7 of them are in the Fort Worth schools. Some in public, some in private, and some in charter schools. So we're hitting the breadth of all of that. So I know this district. Moving forward. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me. My coordinator here can help me. As Dan said, I am an entrepreneur and businesswoman. Together, Heather and I run Be Smart Builders, which means we understand what it means to be taxed. We understand what it means to have regulations and all of that goes with it. The other thing is, as part of that, we give back to my community. I've been president of the Builders Association, which is actually 7 counties included in it, including in Tarrant with that. And I'm on the board of directors both here locally as well as at the state. So that means that during that time, I've gone down to the state and I've actually helped, lobby for and get legislation passed that helps us with our housing community issues, which there's a lot of them, especially with all these 1,000 people coming in a day in order to live in Texas with us. So, furthermore, as he said, I've been in the defense world for over 20 years, and now through John over here, we still are part owners in a defense company here that works on a different thing. And that means that, I've had top secret SBI clearances. That's as high as you can get. That's what the president has. The technologies that I worked on 20-something years ago, some of you have yet to see. I'm not supposed to remember what they are. I don't know anything about it. And some of them are like GPS and night vision goggles, which is on everybody's phone and car and everything else like that. But the bottom line is that applies to the border and other issues that we have locally when you look at that, okay? Moving on forward from that, I stood on a board, thanks to Mr. Bates over here, for one of our local public charter schools. And that is very critical because that was extremely eye-opening to me, because the first day I walked in there, we were thrust right in the middle of the gender identity indoctrination. And we have been fighting it ever since. We have the ACLU coming after us right now. But I've become extremely sensitive to what is being taught in our schools today. And that goes further. We have a sex education program in the Fort Worth public schools that would probably horrify all of you. It starts in the middle schools teaching children that it is their God-given right to have multiple sex partners on a frequent basis and not even of the same sex. That is not what our children need to be hearing. So what I'm telling you is, I am in that warfare. Dan and I have both been in that warfare, and I'm going to stay in that warfare because there's nothing more precious to us than our kids. Moving on. I am involved in this community. I don't just live here. I'm involved. So if you look at it, I'm very proud to say I'm a longtime member of Christ Chapel Bible Church. I play bells there every month or so. I'm on that's the school board down here on this end. I'm a member of Lance's Forge Room group, which is also out fighting for trafficking and other DEI and issues and equipping people that do that. I'm on his board for that. I am in the Aggie Club, and I tend to do the one down in Hood County simply because it's smaller and more manageable than here. Active, and I'm still in the Builders Association. Furthermore, if you look at politically, I'm not new to the political world, and this is going to be in contrast to my opponents that I'm running against right now, because not only am I locally active by being a precinct chair in this area, I'm also active in the Cowtown, the Fort Worth Republican Women, but I'm actually active at the Texas Values state level, and then you look at First Liberty and AFPI, those are in Texas Public, those are all at the national level. John and I contribute our time and our treasure to that on a very significant level and have for several years now. So, what do I stand for? 1 First of all, I'm going to stand for that border security. Now, everyone says that. That's a popular thing to say. But when I stand for border security, I am bringing experience. I know how to identify and characterize threats. I know how to set up strategies. Because of the builder side of me, I know what it means to cost to build walls. I know how to do it and those sort of things. So I bring experience to that, and I am absolutely determined. Furthermore, I am honestly afraid, I hope that we are going to get a different administration federally so that this problem they'll start standing behind us. But this cartel is that's a profitable thing. They want to keep going. They're not just going to go away and say, okay, we know we changed. We don't have Biden anymore. Now we're going to do something else. It's going to be a challenge to turn this around, and the trafficking of all the people and drugs that come with that. So I know there's a lot of legislatures there, and I believe I bring experience to it. Furthermore, because I've been in the defense world for many, many years, you don't have to talk to very many soldiers or policemen or anything else and say their number one fear is that they don't have the support of us. They can go out on that front line. They may not be equipped. They're not empowered to do their job. They're just hung out there. That is unfair to them. It's unfair to us. Down in Granbury, we have a friend that is a game warden. He spends 1 week a month at the border in a boat without being able to do anything, watching the cartel come through to him, and he can't draw his gun. He has to wait and see what they do. He's a young man in his 30s with small children. He didn't sign up for that. He signed up to go give tickets to people who were drinking on the boats in Granbury, or didn't have their license. But that's what he's committed to do. So we need to empower, and we need to equip, and we need to stand behind our armed forces. The other thing I'm going to go for is business prosperity. We did a whole lot to reduce our taxes this last time. There's a whole lot more we can do, and we need to keep doing it. We need to work the regulations that are coming at us. In the building world, it's a constant thing. The global green issue is driving our housing cost up so much, it's absolutely ridiculous, and that's true across the board. We are not as friendly business as we used to be. We've got other states competing with us. We need to keep working on that area right there. And then back to this parents and protecting our children. The only way we're going to solve the school issue and the indoctrination again is we've got to give the power to parents to see what's going on, to have a vote in what's going on, and to give them a choice to move the chains of school that they send their children to if that's what it comes down to. So I think that is all extremely critical. And I just can't tell you how horrified I am now that I've been in the thick of it as to what these children are being taught. It is just, I just can't tell you enough about that. Furthermore, there are so many ways that children are abused that you don't even think about. One of them is dear and near to our Sheriff Wayborn, and that's parents who get a kick out of having medical treatment done on their small children. That is absolutely horrendous. So there's several areas there that I think we need to work hard in, and that's probably going to be one of my biggest things is I'm going to be very active and very bold in that area. If you move forward, I'm going to stand for freedoms. The left is trying to take them away. They don't want us to have the freedom to use our guns and have them and carry them. They don't want, us to be, they want to abort children after birth, in the 9th month, in the 8th month. That's ridiculous. Fortunately, right now, we have a law where abortion is illegal. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the left is going to come at us hard in this election on that one issue, and they win elections over and over and over again, all the way up and down the chain over the issue of abortion. It's so dividing. Okay? And even though we have it in control right now, the abortion pill is a killer. Mm-hmm. It is not only killing the babies, it's killing the mamas who are taking it too late and then they're bleeding out. Mm-hmm. And you say, if you listen to anyone who knows anything about it, to the nurses in their emergency rooms, what they're saying is, these packages, when you mail order these pills, come in, and with them in the instructions is don't ever tell the emergency room that you're here because you took an abortion pill, because you've broken the law if you live in Texas. So guess what's happened? Miscarriages are up 25%. Do you think that just magically happened overnight? No, it did not. Okay? And I clearly stand for election integrity, support Dan and Bill Ferrer and Karen and all the things that they've done there. If we don't have a vote, we're screwed. That's just all there is to it. Okay, then the other thing I want to talk about, I spent the weekend, thanks to John Bolzer, at the gun show. Never been to one before. It's a very interesting experience. If you want to find some conservatives, you're going to find them in all shapes and sizes and whatever. But one thing I really got to do there was I spent a lot of time talking to veterans. And to a man, everyone said, we are struggling. We cannot get the medical care we need. Well, I thought that was a federal problem. Well, it would be, except our Texas Veteran Commission is so understaffed, they can't get the appointment at the local level or get a decent diagnosis because they won't spend the time with them to get to the federal funding. We got to work on that. All right, abortion pill, I already talked about. I'm not going to go on that again. And the other thing, because I am on the mental health MHMR board, what I discovered is, do you know how much they pay? The state pays for someone to take care of our loved ones, whether they're disabled, whether they've been victims of drug, or whether they have mental health, and they just need care. $10 an hour. Who's going to work for $10 an hour when you can get paid almost $20 to work at McDonald's? So we locally are funding the difference. But that's a real burden. The other thing is, the law enforcement I talked to at this infamous gun show, every one of them said, we need help in the mental health world because we see the worst of the worst. We're out there living, walking our job in fear because no one's standing behind us. We don't know if we're going to be arrested for doing our job. And so PTS is a big issue, but they give us this much time to get over those issues. And then we either lose our job or we lose our rank. So that's another issue that we need to work on right there. All right, this is where my district is. Pretty much goes to TCU, out towards Aledo, up to White Settlement, and down to Crowley. These are some of the endorsements that you've had. I'm very proud to say that these people have all endorsed me. Some I've asked, some have just volunteered. Very pleased, and there's another one sitting right here who is endorsed. A few more rolling out. But why would you want to vote for me versus my opponents? First of all, I've already said, I'm the one that has the hometown experience. Like Glennis, yeah, I'm over 60, and I have 60 years of experience in this district. My opponents have, maybe 10, 15, much younger. I have experience in several different areas that I think relate to and would help me make decisions and support legislature for key areas that we have problems in. I have been involved in the political process here for several years. I'm the only one who has voted conservative consistently for the last 10 years, and in fact, over 40. Think about that. Do you really want somebody coming here claiming to be the conservative candidate who hasn't even voted Republican for the last 10 years consistently? And what I'm involved in. And then I have leadership experience, whether it's the Builders Association, whether it's my company, whether it's in the school board. I know what it means to stand up and stand strong, and I will do that, all right? Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. The only thing there, we're going to talk about this again later, but my number one request is prayer. My biggest fear is going down to Austin, and I'm being coerced and pushed to compromise. When I went down to talk to different associations last couple of weeks ago, you know what they were concerned about? All 40 of them. Their number one question is, are you Team Paxton or Team Phelan? Not, are you pro-life? Do you care about our business? Do you care about, no. Are you Team Paxton or Team Phelan? And I knew immediately when I looked at each one of these groups, they would either go with me or against me, no matter what I said, in significant numbers. That's the wrong problem. So my answer is, whether you agree with the impeachment or not, which I honestly don't, I'll just tell this group that. There was an impeachment, there was a trial, there was a verdict. How about we get back to governing instead of playing, one Republican against another one? We will lose to the Democrats. I need help. My biggest thing is I've got to touch as many people in this district as I can. So please introduce me to your friends, your cohorts that are conservatives. Give me a group party if you want. Please be willing to, walk and all that stuff. So that's all I have. Are we taking questions at the end? Is that what we're going to do? Or anybody have a question?
Sure. Why don't you take a few questions now, and then because you're on the state level, and then we'll do the same with Michael on the local level.
Okay, anybody have a question?
I know I didn't work for the Texas Veterans Commission, but I did work with people who were in the Texas Veterans Commission, and they need to replace some of them people down there. Because it's the higher ups at the Texas Veterans Commission that has screwed it up for the veterans here. They don't want to hire good people. I know the person who is at the VA Fort Worth outpatient clinic now saying he can't get enough help. And they got him so spread out that he can't help the veterans the way they used to. And I used to work for the Disabled American Veterans, so I know what they do and what they should be doing, and they don't have the people anymore because the higher ups want to sit there and cut, and not help the veterans the way they're supposed to.
That was a common complaint. They just don't have the staff or people to help, period.
And it's because they don't want to hire the people. In the Texas Veterans Commission, you know, we in the state of Texas approved a specific lottery just for veterans. I'd like to know where all that money's going to. Because that's where it's supposed to be going to.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir.
Now, given I might not live in your district, but I want to know from other folks that are running around our district, with state Supreme Courts outlawing candidates on the ballot simply because they have a bias against them and there's no evident proof of anything that's come out yet, whether you like President Trump or not, what are you going to do to prevent the problem of possibly, per se in the future, a liberal state Supreme Court in Texas from outlawing our candidates off the ballot?
What's the question?
Stand up, say that again. Here.
So I know Maine and Colorado have banned President Trump from getting onto the ballot for 2024. Whether you live in the district or not, whether you like President Trump or whoever comes after him or not, I want to know what our state legislatures are going to do about preventing the problem from taking people off the ballot and taking the voice away from the American people.
My immediate answer is we just need to enforce the law that's already in place and not play around with it. Anybody else have a better answer? Yes, sir.
Ms. Mandy, your expertise in education, high priority for our state, for our voters, for our supposed Republican Party, and for our governor has been school choice. Yet we don't have school choice in our state. I'd like to identify the problem and your solution.
I went down and spent a full day on that very subject. Spent it with TPPF and Mandy Drogan, who is the person who traveled with him across this state. And there were several key issues that have been identified on that. One is there's been some compromises made trying to get to the point where we can get to a school choice decision. And one of those compromises is there's a request to make sure that there is assessment of what these schools, that people would be moving out of public schools to go to the private schools. They wanted to use the same STARS testing that is being used in public schools right now. Furthermore, it came with strings, because if a student moved from a public school on a voucher to a private school and failed to pass that STARS testing 2 years in a row, he was jerked back. That's a terrible string. So when I look at that, also going through the legislature right now is a bill to get rid of STAR testing. So I think that one of the first things you need to do is separate the assessment from school choice or not. Secondly, the rural areas are the biggest issues. And I can't quite figure out why, because in the rural areas they don't have a choice of a private school to begin with. But it is the biggest issue, and what is known in those areas is that frequently the school is in fact the largest employer of that district. So if you look at the 21 Republican House reps that voted against school choice, 19 of them are heavily funded by the teachers union. What does that tell you? And they're all 100% in the rural areas. So I think that we need to make sure that we pass something. Number one, we need to educate people on what it really means. Because this voucher does not take money away that much from the public schools, because it only takes somewhere between 1/3 and 1/2, depending on which bill you're looking at, of the funding that goes to a child. Most of them are $16,000 to $17,000 per child per year in public schools, and they're talking about moving $8,000 to $10,000 a year to go with the child. So the public school actually ends up with more money per capita after you move some of these kids. So they aren't losing money. That's a bogus thing right there. But people don't understand that, okay? They are all terrified that public schools will go out of business. And yet in the 32 or 33 states that already have it, there's not enough private schools out there to house everybody in the public school. And most private schools, quite frankly, you can't get into for $8,000 a year. So it's still going to require money, and you still have to get in. So I think there's a lot of education that needs to be done, number one. I think that they ought to take a different approach to it, and I'm hoping that Abbott will not bring it back after the first of the year. You know, he hasn't brought it up. Let's regroup, because I do agree with the principle that we ought to be able to take our money with our kids. But let's take the rural community out of the equation and say they don't have to do it, because they don't have an option to go most of the time anyway. But in the big metropolitan areas where we're having the most issues in public school, let's gauge it toward that. Let's take away the strings and go that direction. That's my vote. Anything else?